Oh, everyone's leaving. That's probably not good.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody. It's the end of the work week, and that is, I guess that's some good news for all of us today, as Baylor men's basketball feels like everything we thought we were going to have next season is slowly but surely imploding. That is the topic of discussion today on Locked On Baylor. I'm Drake Toll from Sports Illustrated's Inside the Bears. Thank you for making Locked On Baylor your first listen every single day. By the way, Scott Drew is being inducted in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame on April 15th. Tickets are still available for that. Now that I think about it, basketball, Scott Drew, why not? Also, my personal YouTube page, I'll put a link down to it in the bottom. I've applied for the Jim Nantz Sports, so this is the clerical stuff, Jim Nantz Broadcast Award. And so if you want to watch my submission, it's like 12 minutes, got some Locked On Baylor stuff and jazz like that. That would mean a lot. They always seem to really enjoy the ones who get a lot of views even before the judging begins. So drop a comment if you love me. Just got romantic. The Baylor men's basketball team has lost 4 guys in the span of a week. Dale Bonner, who we have not really talked about much on the show in the last 7 days, or his transfer prospect, at least. Now he's gone. Not surprising. LJ Cryer, which if you saw this coming, you saw it coming a year in advance. He had already toyed, at least there were rumors that he toyed with this last offseason and he didn't do it. And then Jordan Turner, who is officially entered the transfer. There's murmurs. I'm going to go with Jordan Turner's in the transfer portal. And then Zach Loveday, who has entered the transfer portal as well. And I've seen a lot of tweets, and I've been asked by a lot of people. Somebody texted me and said, yo, well, 2 people, why the mass exodus? Why is everybody leaving the program? What's going on? Is Baylor men's basketball falling apart for next season? And my answer is no. Not even close, guys. Let's break this down. All right, you've listened to the show before. You know that I'm usually the doom and gloom guy, the cynic. I'm the pessimist. So I give you the worst case scenario or maybe I'm a realist, just without the green and gold colored glasses on. Here, I think I'm being a realist in saying that this is really okay. Of the 4 guys that have entered the transfer portal, 2 of them are Jordan Turner and Zach Loveday. Jordan Turner, 0 meaningful minutes for Baylor men's basketball in his career here. Zach Loveday, 0 meaningful minutes for Baylor basketball in his career here. I want to be clear that I'm not trying to dock these guys for what they've done for the program over the course of their time. I am sure they've played an integral role during practice, an integral role during scout team, and they put in a lot of work to help Baylor win a national championship as they were both on that team. But hey, that does nothing. Losing those 2 does nothing to the production that Baylor expected to return next season. So really, if we're going to key in on anything, it would be the 2 guards, LJ Cryer and Dale Bonner, and why they entered the transfer portal. Here's where I want to start, because we've already given a lot of conversation to LJ Cryer. I want to start on these 2 with Dale Bonner. The crowd of Baylor fans who have come to Scott Drew's defense, despite a couple of disappointing postseasons in a row, is pretty prevalent. There are a lot of Baylor folks who have been like, yeah, no, in Scott we trust. That's the big thing, like we love Scott Drew. If Scott knows what he's doing, even without Jerome Tang, he's going to be fine. Well, if Scott knows what he's doing, then you would agree benching Dale Bonner for the course of a month in Big 12 play was a good decision. If you truly trust Scott Drew's coaching decisions, then you trust that him not allowing Dale Bonner basically on the floor in any meaningful minutes for Baylor was the right call. So you're losing a guy in Bonner who I liked, you probably liked, the general Baylor public, I feel like, especially once he came back and played so well, became very big Dale Bonner fans, big Dale Bonner fans, big Dale Bonner fans. And yes, great, wonderful, Dale was good. But doesn't there feel like there's something we don't know? Why was he benched for a month this season? If he was so good that he's going to be this massive, he's going to be the guy coming into next year, then why'd Scott bench him for a month? You're not looking at a guy transferring who is I would feel really, if Jalen Bridges entered the transfer portal, that's when I'm kind of like, ooh, not good. The guy started all the games this season and was really consistent. That would worry me. Dale Bonner did not start every game this season. He wasn't consistent because the coaches did not play him consistently. He needed to move on because he was playing roulette with his playing time this season at Baylor. So this is no shock. It's a big decision for him, but it's the right decision because he could come back next year and whatever happened in that month span could happen again, and Scott keeps him off the floor. That was a decision the Baylor coaching staff made this season, and I can guarantee you who we all agreed, we all thought, all right, Dale Bonner's a guy that could play at a lot of Power 6 schools. He probably thinks the same thing. He needed to go out somewhere and test that because Baylor did not value him as much as he thought he needed to be valued. Did Baylor value him accurately? I don't know. I can't say. But if you trust Scott Drew, then the answer is yes. If you trust Scott Drew to do the right things with his players, then the answer to that is yes. LJ Cryer. Oof. And look, I'm going to get into first why this is not. So those are my three, right? Jordan Turner, Zach Loveday, and Dale Bonner. Those are the three. It's like, okay, the ship's not sinking because they transfer. Then there's LJ Cryer, which is throwing a lot of people for a loop. Guys, a year ago, it looked like all was lost. I was positive LJ Cryer was going to enter the transfer portal and go somewhere else. There were so many murmurs from very valuable sources that said LJ Cryer has a foot out the door and he's ready to go somewhere else. We had heard that $800,000 deal that Nigel Pack got at Miami to go from Kansas State to Miami was LJ Cryer's deal until it was given to Nigel Pack. Is that true? I honestly don't know, and I'm sure there are very few people who could actually confirm or accurately deny that. But where there is smoke, there is fire. He had a foot out the door last year. He was day-to-day the entire season, but never played a game. The injury seemed like it was either mishandled or prolonged. Something happened that wasn't good, and he came back. Then this season, he didn't get the production that he wanted. Whether you agree with that or not, whether you agree that he should have gotten more production or you disagree, he needed less production, it doesn't matter. In his mind, LJ Cryer needed more production. Proof? He said he wants time at point guard and Baylor wouldn't give it to him. Great. The coaching staff, too, I have heard from a couple people close to the program, this was kind of a mutual thing. The coaches expected this last offseason, possibly, and they really expected it this offseason. So the conversation between Baylor coaching staff and LJ was not a, oh, LJ, please stay. We need you. We have to have you. And more of a, okay, thank you for your time at Baylor. Goodbye. This was I don't want to say mutual. I'm sure that LJ initiated it. I don't think Baylor kicked him out of the program, but I can tell you this. There aren't a lot of coaches on that staff that are losing sleep because LJ Cryer is not coming back next year. They saw this coming. They were prepared for it. Baylor didn't lose. Again, to me, Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua, if he goes in the transfer portal, uh-oh. Jalen Bridges, if he goes in the transfer portal, uh-oh. I'm to the point where Langston Love, if he goes to the transfer portal, uh-oh. These were guys, Dale Bonner, LJ Cryer, and the two guys who never played that kind of saw coming, that I'm not shocked by. I don't think the coaching staff's shocked by, and they're not hitting the red button. Neither should you. I'm not hitting the red button because these guys left. I saw it coming, and it now leaves room for your Max Asmus from Oral Roberts. It leaves room for your Tyler Perry from North Texas, that Baylor can go out and get a guard, an experienced senior guard out of the transfer portal, bring him to Baylor, plug and play in the Big 12, and fit what the Bears are going for next year, because obviously whatever they're going for does not have a prevalent spot for LJ Cryer or Dale Bonner, and obviously doesn't have a spot for Jordan Turner or Zach Loveday. That much we know, and that's why I'm not panicking. So what's next? What's the starting lineup next year? What does the transfer portal look like? Let's get into it. Let's dive all the way in. But first, FanDuel.com is the place to. Gosh dang it, guys. I have I've done it. I have done it. I feel on top of the world. I'm on a hot streak, as the kids call it, at FanDuel, because I have found these NBA player props. I started following these sharps, these betting folks who do it basically for a living, and following their picks. I found out how to bet intelligently. All of that at FanDuel. They have honestly the best lines in America too. I'm not just saying that because they're Locked On sponsor. They have so much better lines than the DraftKings of the world, than the MGM, BetMGM, whatever it is. I go to FanDuel. Even if you don't sports bet, go to FanDuel, check the best lines. The best value. There's also a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. You get a bonus bet back if your bet doesn't win. So you pay $1,000 for John Rahm to win the Masters, and he doesn't, you get $1,000 back. Also, if you bet $1,000 on Rahm to win the Masters and it does hit, you probably win like $100,000. I think it's probably $100,000. You can right now go and parlay NBA bets as well. Have player over unders for points, rebounds, assists, you name it. Game totals, game spreads. The playoffs are coming up as well. FanDuel even lets you combine bets in great parlays. There's a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 at FanDuel.com/locked on. Go there to learn more today. You make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Locked On, the NBA, the NFL, everything. All right, next season's lineup for the Bears. Sidelines Baylor, SSN_Baylor, put this out on Twitter, and it's a look into what the starting lineup could look like next season. D'Antoine Grimes, Langston Love, Jacoby Walter, Jalen Bridges, and Jonathan Tchamwa with Miro Little, Caleb Lohner, Josh Ojenwuna. Guys, that's a pretty good rotation. That's also 8 guys. How many do you need in college basketball? 8 guys. There's also the Missy kid that could reclassify and come to Baylor next year, who is a true point guard as well. He could add a big impact to the Bears. And honestly, of that starting 5, D'Antoine Grimes, Langston Love, Jacoby Walter, Jalen Bridges, and Everyday John, there's only one name, D'Antoine Grimes, that I think, I'm going to need a little bit more. I'm going to need some more proof that D'Antoine Grimes can be a starter at Baylor. And guess what? Pick me. Here's the good news. That's okay, because the transfer portal exists, and the Bears are going to go get one, at least maybe 2, I think 2 big-time transfers out of the portal this season. And here, look, listen to these 8 guys again, but listen with the idea of which one won't play. Inevitably, when a transfer comes in, it's going to happen. One of these guys will be taken out of the rotation. One of these players will not get minutes, especially significant minutes for Baylor because of transfers inevitably coming in. So again, D'Antoine Grimes, Langston Love, Jacoby Walter, Jalen Bridges, Everyday John, Miro Little, Caleb Lohner, Josh Ojenwuna. Those 8 guys. One of them will be filtered out of the rotation due to the transfer portal. That's a good problem to have. Those are all names that you know. Aside from, again, D'Antoine Grimes, who you probably don't have that much experience with, I think he could surprise a lot of people with being a Davion Mitchell type player. I've heard that in practices, he's been that guy. And hey, Adam Flagler, I don't think it's going to happen. Adam Flagler could still come back. If he doesn't, that's fine. I think Max Asmus, I think Tyler Perry could be a great pickup out of North Texas. But as I look at the lineup, I'm not worried in the slightest. Is this going to be the typical Scott Drew team that mows through the non-conference and wins double-digit games? That's where it gets a little tricky. You see they're playing Seton Hall, too, in the Big 12 Big East Classic. Kind of hate that. It's just like a weird, you have all the teams, Seton Hall, okay, whatever. But of this lineup, there's going to be a learning curve. I truly believe that. There's going to be a learning curve. There is not, if you had to name the senior leaders, Jonathan Tchamwa, but Scott has excelled with guards who are the senior leaders, or guards who have a lot of experience. Now, Langston Love brings 2 years of experience into this program, and you have a couple really good young guys. It's just going to take some time for all of that to work itself out. I don't think Baylor is going to have an insanely successful non-conference. Things are going to need to click. At the same time, Baylor could have a pretty dismal conference run there for a little bit. This could be a 10-8 Baylor team in Big 12 play. Well, I guess next season you get it's the new Big 12. When's that schedule going to drop? I didn't even think about that. Houston, UCF, Cincinnati, and BYU are in the fold next season. Is that next season? Holy cow. Add that to basketball. What is 20 games now? Maybe so say they go 11-9 in Big 12 play, but Big 12 play gets maybe a little bit easier depending on your schedule. Okay, never mind. I don't know. Maybe this helps or hurts the Bears depending on what their schedule looks like next year. But they're in a position where I do believe no matter what the schedule shakes out to be, there will be some treading water at times over the course of the year. Maybe they go 9-4 in non-conference and then 11-9 in conference play, finishing with a 20-13 record going into the postseason. I could see that for next year's Baylor team. They end up being a wily 6 or 7 seed where you think, all right, that's a team that is scary. Guess who won the NCAA tournament this year? UConn. They weren't a top 3 seed. There's an opportunity for this Baylor team if everything comes together, if they click. We knew pretty confidently this last season that things were going to click immediately for the Bears. There weren't a ton of question marks, especially after we saw them play in that World Basketball Classic, whatever thing that they played in. We were all confident in what Baylor was going to look like. Next season, well, we don't really know. And it's going to take a lot of time for that to mesh. They don't get to go to Canada or Europe or Brazil or wherever they went last summer, again this summer, and grind their teeth with some great competition around the world to prepare for the season. Instead, they can be a Creighton. That Creighton started the year terribly this last season. They lost 6 straight at one point in non-conference play to some random teams too. Baylor, on the other hand, can walk into next season. I say on the other hand, Baylor similarly can walk into next season, lose 6 straight in non-conference play, and which won't happen. Please, dear God, don't let that happen. And be fine if it does, though, because this squad is going to need time. Give them time. Transfer portal-wise, though, folks, I got some targets. I want, more than anything, Max Abmas. Give me Max Abmas. Give me not just Max Abmas. I would take him and Tyler Perry both because this team needs a couple more guards. LJ Cryer, Adam Flagler, Dale Bonner. These guys have left. There are the Brian Antoine kid from Villanova's in the portal, by the way. He's a really good shooting guard. I would take him. 6'5", 170-ish. I also was pretty shocked to find out that already Texas Tech is one of the leading schools in the transfer portal. How fun is that? And LJ Cryer also is a 4-star now officially in the transfer portal. But I would take the Brian Antoine kid, other guards that are uncommitted. Justice Williams out of LSU could be a really big pickup for somebody. I am all on, but you see the one Arizona kid committed to West Virginia. Wasn't that interesting? And then Arizona said thank you for everything after he transferred. It was weird. No, I mean, there's guys you can scroll through on 24/7 and just look at every player that exists. And I am all in on Max Abmas and Tyler Perry. Do your research on those 2 guys, because if I could put everything, if you find it within yourself to very kindly shoot them a message on Twitter that says, hey, Baylor Nation wants you, like Baylor Nation loves you, that's fine. I'll allow that. I think Scott would allow that. Be respectful about it, but do that, because these 2 guys could be program changers for a team that needs some senior guards next year. Those are the names to remember. You need 2 names: Max Abmas from Oral Roberts, who played for Paul Mills, a Scott Drew coach, and Tyler Perry, guard, North Texas, who played for Grant McCaslin, Scott Drew coach. So the connection is at least there. He's going to have some references. Scott's going to have some references. If these guys want to play at Baylor, they're going to have Grant McCaslin and Paul Mills to say, go do it. Go play for Scott Drew. Be a Bear. There's something there, man. There's something there. Those 2 guys would be I don't want to say program changers, but they would definitely positively affect next season and probably put Baylor around the top 10 mark preseason and easily in the upper third of the Big 12. All that, I also, before I close out, I am very curious about what the basketball schedule is going to look like now. I hadn't really thought about that much. but Baylor might go on the road to Cincinnati or on the road to BYU, on the road to UCF, Houston, Baylor and Houston in the regular season. It's going to be awesome, man. Kelvin Sampson, dope. I'd rather play Texas and OU, though, and see how good those two teams are. Thanks for making Locked On Baylor your first listen every single day. Have a great Easter weekend, everybody. We're off of school today, so that's why I'm in my Arkansas garb, because I'm traveling back home to the great natural state. I'll be back hopefully on Monday. I'm going to see if I can sneak a show in on Sunday, see if I can record one. But if not, I'm going to spend some time with family, and I really hope that you get to do the same over the course of the weekend. Remember what this weekend's for. Remember what Sunday is for. I genuinely hope, and I pray that you all have a safe and fun weekend together. And again, understand the true meaning of what this weekend is, because to me, there's nothing more important than a relationship with Jesus and understanding really, truly who Jesus was. So Sunday, I hope you have a great time, and I will maybe be back Monday, but if not, then know that I was spending a great Easter with my family. So happy Easter, everybody. Thanks for making Locked On Baylor your first listen every single day. Come back Monday or Tuesday. We'll be breaking down a lot of spring football in the next week. This is our basketball week. Next week, we jump back into football, and if you got questions, that's what we're here for. At Locked On Baylor.